Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
This is going to be an interesting show. The Jew who went to visit Saudi Arabia and turned the country upside down. What is that all about? Why is it that the Jews cause so much trouble sometimes? Well, this is going to be, again, as I said, a very interesting show. We're going to be speaking with somebody who went to the holiest places in Islam in Saudi Arabia, being a Jew, even taking his tefillin bag with his name in Hebrew on it and taking pictures there like a Japanese tourist with his camera. This is nuts. This is something that we've got to find out about. So we're going to be having him on the show today. You are invited to call in with your comments or questions. The show is broadcasting live if you're listening to it on Monday here in Israel, or midnight New York, U.S. Eastern Time. That means that we are live. Our numbers are on our homepage at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Just go to our website. At the top middle of the page are our phone numbers, and you can call in. I also want to say that the Tamar Yonah Show is now syndicated on J-Air Radio in Melbourne, Australia. So good day, everybody there. It's nice to have you as new listeners, and I hope that you're going to be enjoying the show here. I bring guests from all over the map, and we talk about just about everything on this show. So if you have any comments or questions, feel free to write me, Tamar, Tamar, at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, and send me your feedback on the show. Do you like it? You hate it? You have some suggestions? Any ideas? I'd love to hear from you. All right, so we're going to be speaking about that. We're also going to be talking about Saudi Arabia, Iran, and what's heating up there. They say that that they are on the verge of war. You've got Iran, which are mostly Shiite, and you've got the Saudi Arabians, who are mostly Sunni, and they are at each other's throats, and it could get very, very dangerous here very, very soon. So we'll be talking about that as well. I want to say hi to everybody who's listening from all over the world: the United States, Israel, Canada, Russia, the United Kingdom, Panama, France, etc., etc. Great to have you here at the show, and we will be back. And remember, it's a call-in show. Join us on the air. We're shaking things up here at Israel News Talk Radio. Our shows are moving around on our broadcast schedule. Most of our live call-in shows will now air at a new time, 7 a.m. Israel time.
Oh.
And midnights, Sunday through Fridays, U.S. Eastern time. Are you getting confused? No problem. Just go to our drop-down menu on our homepage.
Okay.
And click on our broadcast schedule, and a page will load with all of our shows and their new times. Remember, except for Sundays, most all of our live call-in shows will be broadcasting 7 a.m. in the morning, Israel time, and 12 midnight, U.S. Eastern time. Call in and join us on the air. Israel News Talk Radio's new schedule, just for you.
Hi, I want to make a comment on the air.
Sure, I'll put you through.
Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
I have a very interesting interview coming up. It is almost, you scratch your head and you're wondering why. So we're going to find that out. It's about a Jew who went to visit Saudi Arabia and literally turned the country upside down. Nay, He turned the entire Islamic world upside down. He dressed as an Arab and went to the holiest places in Islam with his tefillin bag, that's the phylacteries that a Jew uses, and he even photographed himself in their holy mosques. And now the Arab world is in an uproar. He went to places that are forbidden for non-Muslims to tread. So I want to say, who is this man? His name is Ben Tzion, or in Hebrew, Ben Tzion. Ben Tzion, or Ben Tzion, literally means son of Zion, and that's the name that he has showing in a photograph on the social network as well, with his name in Hebrew in a mosque. So with no further ado, we're going to find out who this man is. So welcome to the show, Ben Tzion.
Thank you so much, Tamar. My pleasure being with you. And I like the actual pronunciation Ben Tzion. Ben Tzion. It's actually the Mount Sinai. It's also, could be called Sion or Tzion. And also Jerusalem sometimes is also being called Tzion. When we say we're from Tzion, it means that we Jews are coming from the land of Israel and Jerusalem primarily. So that's kind of the reference of the name.
Okay.
So we don't pronounce it as Zion. We pronounce it as Tzion, as the way I just mentioned to you.
Right.
And it's a very special introduction. I'm very humble and honored to be introduced that way. Once again, I don't think I'm the first or last Jew to enter Saudi Arabia. It's just, I'm the only one who entered it openly, and I was not hiding my identity. When people would ask me where you're coming from, I told them, look, I arrived from Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. Obviously, I couldn't use my Israeli documents, and we don't have direct flight from Tel Aviv, Ben Gurion to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. But hopefully, maybe within the next few years, if political situation going to change and new Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman would become a new king, new ruler of Saudi Arabia, and he's very young, he's a millennial. He's a year older than myself. He's 32 and I'm 31. I think, the new leadership like him will change Middle East and obviously Saudi Arabia, where the holiest sites of Islam, Mecca and Medina are.
Okay,
and,
you know what? We're going to get to that in a few moments. I want to first ask you, why did you do this? How did you even get the idea?
Look, it was, once again, it was a private trip. I went to see my friends who are Saudi Arabians, who are Arabs, who are nationals of Saudi Arabia, but we know each other for years. We've been friends, we share a lot of, good history, and we've never had issues me being a Jew and them being Arabs and being from Saudi. We've never had issues to communicate with each other. So when I went to Saudi Arabia, I went there as a private citizen, as a Jewish person, but went to see my Arab Muslim friends. So I was not trying to impress or show anything or to do anything that would, create this uproar, as you say. Actually, I was, posting those pictures on my Facebook for my family and friends to see and on my Instagram. And somehow, I'm not even know who or at what occasion, someone discovered those pictures. And then I think the issue was for those people that I'm a Jew and I'm open about that. I'm not hiding my identity. And then I had this tefillin box, which I always carry with me. And I think second, what also struck them, it was that I was in the second most holiest place of Islam. And it's called Prophet Muhammad's Shrine or Prophet Muhammad's Mosque, and it's actually where he is buried.
Where is this? What city?
It's Medina.
Okay.
City of Medina. It's not far away from the Red Sea. It's close to Jeddah and Red Sea.
Now, isn't it forbidden for anyone who's non-Muslim to go to Medina?
Look, very careful about this. It's forbidden for sure to go to Mecca, which is number one, and where people do Hajj, where they do, pilgrimage. For Medina, it's kind of, gray area. It doesn't clearly say that you're forbidden, even though I heard that someone mentioned to me just recently that they kind of incorporated the new law that photographing and videotaping is now prohibited in those holy sites. But again, I went there on a free terms and accord. I went there as a friend. I went there without any bad thoughts or idea in terms of, damaging the reputation or being disrespectful. I went there to pray as a Jew.
All right, Ben Tzion, how did you walk around I mean, we understand it for anyone who's seen the pictures. You're there. You look like an Arab. You're wearing the long kaftan. You're wearing the head scarf on you. But how do you walk around a Jew with a tefillin bag with your name embroidered in Hebrew on it, and you're walking around a mosque?
Absolutely. Look, first of all, I'd say like this. It wasn't my first experience entering the mosque. I've been to mosque in many different countries, including Russia, Jordan, Lebanon. I've traveled a lot. So when I traveled, even I forgot to mention in Iran, I was last December, last Hanukkah, I was in Iran visiting, Shia sites and shrines. So for me, it's, going there out of respect and dignity and being kind of curious about to learn their culture and see what is Islam is all about, why people are so scared, or maybe they don't understand. Maybe Islam is actually a peaceful religion and some people are just abusing and taking something out of the context and brainwashing other and becoming radical and fanatics. So I'm really curious about that. That's kind of, something that, people call it hobby, but I'm actually trying to maybe be a researcher in this specific field. And, I go there with respect.
Do you speak Arabic?
Very basic, I can get around, but very basic. And when I speak, obviously people can understand that I have heavy accent and that I don't, it's not my native tongue. And I tell them honestly that, Ana Yahudi, that I'm a Jew and I'm from Jerusalem in Israel. So they definitely, for a few seconds, they a bit in shock. They slightly surprised that I'm a Jew and or in the middle of the mosque or in the middle of the, let's say, Beirut. I was in Beirut beginning of the month. They kind of, cannot comprehend that. But, after a while, we started talking in normal terms. And, we don't feel any barrier just because I'm a Jew and they're Arabs or Muslims.
You've never had any trouble? There's never been a Hamasnik or a...
like you say, like kibbutznik, Hamasnik, kibbutznik. No, I've never experienced anything. I'll be honest to you. In the Middle East, in Arab or Muslim countries, I've never ever have felt threatened by anyone. On opposite, when people hear that I'm from Israel, I'm a Jew, they want to embrace me, they want to hug me, they want to take me around. It changes their kind of, mind shift in a way that here we go, the Jew is in our land, Jew is in my home country, he's visiting my, hometown for some, but my holiest places, and they're very respectful, interestingly enough.
Some people would say you're a very brave man, and some people would say you're a very stupid man. It's up to people what they want to believe. I want to ask you this. I mean, so you have never been afraid for your life? Hello?
Also, it's come from my childhood. I grew up in Russia. Yeah. I grew up in Russia. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I grew up in south of Russia, and my friends from childhood, from my kindergarten, from my middle school and elementary school, were Muslims, were Christians, Greeks, Armenians, Azerbaijani, Chechens, Dagestani. So I'm experienced from childhood living in a multicultural society where people would speak different languages at home, but we would all speak Russian language back at school. And then we would socialize and be friends, not in terms of religion, Islam or Judaism or Christianity, but in terms of human character and quality traits. So if someone is a trustworthy person, I don't care if he's Muslim or Jew or Christian or Arab or whoever, or like Hindu, I will respect him and I will deal with him just on those character qualities, rather than based on the religion or international agenda.
Okay, let me ask you this. Since you've done this has been out on the social media, there's been a wild reaction from Muslim people around the world. Some of them are screaming that, you should be killed and that you've made impure, you've made their holy sites impure by treading let me use Mahmoud Abbas's words, your dirty little feet, your Jewish feet on there. And okay. My question is there a fatwa or a death warrant out on you?
No, that would be very stupid and silly. I've read those comments, and usually if you look in those profiles, they have one or two posts. It's kind of fake accounts, fake news, people, hiding their identity, and they put in those kind of accusations and nonsense and using F words and so on. I've read them. But I was more surprised and kind of actually honored to receive so many private messages, both on Instagram and my private Facebook page. People from all over the world, starting from Pakistan, Malaysia, Indonesia. I got requests from Qatar, even Syria. You would be surprised. I got a few requests from Syria saying, brother, we love you, we respect you. This is amazing. You're showing the real face, and Muslim world's embracing you. And some people actually defending me. Some of those Muslims on public media. They defend me and say, please don't feel any way that we are not welcoming you. And they are actually apologizing for those who put in those kind of negative posts, I would say. But again, those people are ignorant. Those people don't want to be respectful. And look, I understand that maybe not everyone is ready right now to embrace each other and kind of move towards peace and towards friendship and towards mutual respect and understanding. Maybe we don't have to love each other, but we have to be respectful towards each other.
Okay, and I can imagine those Arabs or those Muslims that are on the social network anyway have more exposure to people and outside of their little bubbles, and they're more tolerant. Although there are many Muslims, unfortunately, who are not so tolerant. We're going to keep you on through the break because I have a lot more questions to ask you, and we'll open up the phone lines if anybody wants to call in. So stay with us, everybody.
You think you can get real news about Israel from major news sources located far away from Israel? Think again. Get it from the source, Israel News Talk Radio, straight up from Israel.
Hi, I'm Rabbi David Aaron. The soul basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in our education. Join me for Soul Talk on Israel's News Talk Radio and discover the secrets to love, spiritual growth, and personal power.
This Jew, his name is Ben Tzion, or literally in English, Son of Zion. He treaded his Jewish feet on some of the holiest sites in Islam, and the Arab world is in an uproar. He's been on Israeli television, he's been on Arabic media, and he's here on Israel News Talk Radio right now talking about his experiences in Saudi Arabia, in Medina, in the mosques, carrying with him, get this, a tefillin bag with his name in Hebrew on it. And he just walked there. It sounds crazy, but this is what happened. And we're speaking with him now about his time visiting mosques, not only in Saudi Arabia, but in Lebanon, as he said, Iran, etc. So welcome back to the show, Ben Tzion.
Thank you so much. I'm with you, and I'm very, very super excited to be with you today. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited as well because this is just such a story. So we know what the social network is saying. You've got your people who are saying that they're threatening you, etc., and others are saying I've seen it myself. Some are saying that. Ma pitom, what is this? It's all photoshopped. He was never even there, and they're trying to make it like you weren't there, so you didn't make impure their holy sites. And there's a whole back and forth going on in the social media. But besides being on Israeli media, which is where I saw you and got your story, I saw that you were also interviewed on the Arabic media. Tell us about that.
It's very interesting. So first, Al Jazeera reached out, but I think they were scared kind of to do proper interview. They definitely wanted to use my story to harm the relationship with Saudi Arabia and say something negative about Israel. Absolutely. So they kind of got my contact information and never followed up. But next day, BBC Arabic get in touch with me. I'm not sure how they found me, probably on my Facebook or my Instagram. And, they were very nice and professional. And yeah, I gave them interview because, first of all, I've seen all those negative messages. I've seen all that kind of, negativity on the Instagram and Twitter. I was #1 Twitter hashtag Zionist in Medina. And I think, the Zionist came because of the name Tzion, my name. So I don't necessarily think that they use Zionist as the kind of, the political agenda, but they use my last name as kind of to promote the Zionist and in the Medina. And, BBC Arabic, did like 10 minutes show in their Monday and Tuesday prime time. And it was #1 trending story for the BBC Arabic ever so far. And a lot of people after that received the message that, I was there on good terms. I was there as a friend. I went there as a private citizen, not as Israeli citizen, because obviously Israelis cannot go directly to Saudi Arabia. But yes, I'm a proud Jew. I've never hide my identity, neither in Russia, neither in America, and especially why would I hide it in Saudi Arabia?
Okay, let me stop you there because I had some questions about that. An Israeli is not allowed to go into Saudi Arabia. So what passport did you use? You said that you're in Russia right now, that you're Russian, you're American, and Israeli. You hold three citizenships?
You got it. But, I'd like not to disclose which one I've used, just kind of for the privacy reasons. But you're right. I have 3 passports, one in Russia because I was born in Russia. So I have Russian citizenship by birth. And obviously I've lived in America for over 10 years. So I acquired the American passport. But I made Aliyah in 2014 officially. So I have official Israeli passports. And I was traveling to Saudi from Tel Aviv, from Ben Gurion on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I arrived there. Obviously, I made a pit stop in Istanbul. That was, the most convenient kind of connection to fly to Riyadh. But I went there legally. I went there with necessary paperwork and visa requirements. You can't just go.
Did you go alone or with your Saudi friends?
No, my Saudi friends were in Saudi Arabia waiting for me. But I traveled by myself. So I was not accompanied by anyone. And I met them back at their houses and their home.
And did your Saudi friends get in trouble?
No, because again, I was not dragging anyone into Medina, and I actually told them that I want to go to Medina by myself, because it's very kind of a private thing, and I didn't want to have my friends kind of be around me for that specific moment, because it's a birthplace of Islam religion. You can understand. In Medina is where Prophet Muhammad went and lived there for the first time. That was his first kind of Hajj. That was his personal relocation from Mecca. Actually, he moved from Mecca to Medina and he settled in Medina. So I wanted to feel it by myself. I didn't want to be rushed. I didn't want to be accompanied by anyone. So I went there myself. I met there a few other people who I knew. They were from locals. They were from Medina. But my friends, that's why they are not. It has nothing to do.
Let me ask you this, Ben Tzion, because we're short on time, and there's so many questions I have. You yourself, you were telling me during the break. I asked you if you were a religious Jew, if you kept Shabbat, and you said that you don't like to be boxed in and labeled as you're just a Jew, but you did say you do keep Shabbat. And my question is, you go into a mosque and you are holding your tefillin bag. Did you bow down in the mosque? And if you did, how does that click with you as a Jew?
With it, first of all, yes, I bow down there, and as you know, as a Jewish people, once a year on Yom Kippur, we do bow down 5 times. So according to the Jewish practice, there is nothing wrong when you pray to Hashem, to God, to bow down. I don't do this regularly, but when I'm in the mosque, I kind of kneel myself, and I sit properly according to the customs of the temple of which I'm inside. And if you compare church or mosque, according to all Talmudim and to the Rabbanim, it's much more comfortable and appropriate for a Jew to enter and pray inside the mosque than inside the church, because there are no.
And what kind of prayers do you say when you're doing this? What is going through your mind?
I only can pray in Hebrew. I don't know any other prayers. I only can say words in Hebrew that I know. And usually you start with Shema Israel, very basic. Shema Israel, and I close my eyes with my hand and I say Shema. I say it, I mumble, is it properly. I don't say it quietly, but I'm not screaming there. I'm not yelling there. I'm not trying to bring attention towards myself. But I say, very basic standard blessings that we do, especially,
Okay. And let me ask you this. You're coming into Saudi Arabia. I have heard stories where Saudi Arabia, when you're coming in and you're an infidel, you're not a Muslim, they look through your belongings. They don't even let you bring a Christian Bible in. They confiscate these things. How did you get in with your tefillin bag?
Look, I think those stories are kind of back in the history. Nowadays you have new leadership. You have new people in charge of country for the past 2 years. And you see a lot of changes. You see that women are allowed now to drive. You see, I don't know if you read that yoga is now finally official and women can practice yoga daily. There is nothing wrong about this. So maybe back in the days, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, all of those you mentioned were relevant and correct. But nowadays, you enter to Saudi Arabia through airport. There is regular custom check. There is no one is going through my belongings. People were very respectful. People were funny at the custom, at the security. normal country, normal Middle Eastern Arab Muslim country. And we, as Jewish people in Israel and elsewhere, have to change our perspective on the people from the Arab world. Yes, we had a lot of bad history in the past 100 years, but overall, we have so many things in common. Besides religion, besides our identity, that we all come from Abraham and Ibrahim, as they pronounce it in Arabic. But let's say when there were crusaders in Spain, so crusaders kicked out both Jews and Muslims. So, and we went to the North Africa and Middle East, and we were always together, Jews and Muslims, Arabs and Jews. So we should kind of try to kind of look forward and flip to the new page and kind of move forward 21st century with new agenda of brotherhood, of respect.
We sure hope so. We sure hope so. Let me just go to a caller. We have Motik joining us from the settlement of Portland, Oregon. Hi there, Motik. What is your comment or question for Ben Tzion? Do we have Motik?
I'm not sure. I'm
okay. Here. All right. I think she fell off the line. We'll wait until she calls back. Okay. All right. So let me ask you this, Ben Tzion, because we only have 2 minutes left. Okay. We want to do this quickly. So you were there in Saudi Arabia. You were talking at the beginning of the show about Mohammed bin Salman. He's the new leader there. He's doing radical changes. He's trying to promote moderate
Islam. Correct.
Yes, exactly. Modernize it. Exactly. That's what I was looking for. And there are rumors that Saudi Arabia is secretly making channels with Israel. This is all because of Iran, the threat of Iran as well. Right. By you being there and your friends talking, what do the people on the ground, in the street in Saudi Arabia, how do they feel about this new leader? Are they pro or are they against him?
Absolutely. You need to understand 65% of population. Saudi Arabia has 32 million population. 65% of those are youth under age of 30. So, and Mohammed bin Salman himself is 32. So it's super young, progressive, educated.
So they're for him. They're for him. Okay, I need really short answers from you because we're ending the segment and I want so much to ask you questions. We've seen pictures in the media of highway signs in Saudi Arabia saying Muslims take this lane and non-Muslims take that lane. When you were going to Medina, did you see anything like that?
No, I haven't seen that. I haven't. And first of all, I was taking airline. I was flying from Riyadh to Jeddah and Jeddah to Medina and then from Medina to Riyadh. So, but again, I was traveling in the Riyadh. There is no lanes like that. Again, a lot of people speculate about, Saudi Arabia being like, from the 15th century or from medieval time. It's not true. It's progressive, very contemporary country. It's Middle Eastern country. Obviously, it has tradition and culture. And we have to respect that, but none of that nonsense that people trying to scare and kind of propagate and promote.
Okay.
None of that.
Okay, I don't know if we have to respect that. I don't know if we have to respect things that keep women in subjugation and things like that. But okay, you're entitled to your opinion. That's fine.
No, I think it's changing. It's changing rapidly.
I hope so. I hope so.
Years ago, but again, what I've seen, the women I've met so many young, brilliant, smart women, business owners. They were chicks, executives. So
okay.
I have.
Ben Tzion, really fast in 15 seconds. Yes. What have you learned from all of this?
I think respect. And curiosity. If you have respect towards other cultures and different religion and kind of ways of living, yes, they might not necessarily be similar to what we expect and what we do, but we have to be tolerant and we have to be curious to learn more about them.
All right.
And we should expect that from their end as well.
All right, Ben Tzion, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show. It was a lovely interview. I really got a lot of my questions answered, and I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. Thank you, and be safe. Don't go anywhere, everybody. We're going to be right back with more on Saudi Arabia.
G'day, I'm Jono Vandor.
And I'm Ross Nichols.
Join us on our program, Israel on My Mind, a show that broadcasts all the weekly goodness that flows like milk and honey from the Holy Land straight into your ears with humorous and happy news stories.
New shows are posted every Thursday at 7 p.m. Israel time, highlighting the lighter side and advancing a positive view of Israel here on Israel News Talk Radio.
right, so we've been talking with Ben Tzion in the last couple of segments about his trip to Saudi Arabia as a Jew and the stir that it has caused. And I think he was being very diplomatically nice, trying to make it so, he had a lot of support, but there is a lot of non-support for him. And the Muslim world is afire. You've got today headlines saying that Saudi Arabia and Iran here in the Middle East are on the verge of war. And they are fighting in one sense to see who is going to be the leader of Islam, whether it's going to be the Sunni Saudi Arabians or whether it's going to be the Iranians, the Persian Shiites that we see today in the world. And it is getting very, very hot and heated here. And here to comment on this, we have joining us Dr. Mordechai Ben Menachem. So welcome to the show. Mordechai?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I hear you fine. All right. So what do you have to say? I mean, are we really on the verge of war, or are these just dramatic headlines that we're seeing in the press?
Well, one needs to parse your question. Are we on the verge of war? Does that mean, is there a very high chance that a war will occur in the Middle East in the very near future? The answer is absolutely affirmative. Yes. Does that mean that we're going to war? Absolutely. Of course not, because wars can be avoided as well. But a minor mistake, relatively minor, can cause a major conflagration.
And how minor? Give us an example.
Oh, it's very hard to say. But I mean, for instance, the firing of that rocket from Yemen to towards the Saudi airport was clearly the kind of thing that could cause a war to begin. I think I certainly can't be certain of this. I think the present ruler of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Sultan, is intelligent enough. Yeah. Is intelligent enough to react calmly to provocations like that. It was clearly meant to be provocative. Does that mean that he's the only one to make decisions? Of course not, because had some, for instance, Saudi commander reacted before getting a proper command from on top, etc., those are the kinds of things that can cause wars to begin from a relatively minor incident.
Do you believe that Saudi Arabia wants war?
Sorry?
Do you believe that Saudi Arabia wants war, or Iran?
Iran certainly does. There's no question at all about that. There was an article yesterday in the Times of Israel saying that a very major figure in Iran said, well, if the Europeans are going to be nasty to us, we can extend the range of our rockets that I can hit Arabia. This is fake news. Iran can and does have rockets in Lebanon that can hit anywhere in Europe now. And if anybody's listening from places like France or Netherlands or Russia or Greece or whatever, anywhere in Europe, you are today under Iranian rocket fire.
Okay, so explain to our listeners why you believe that Iran is looking for war. I mean, you understand. We all understand that the Persian Empire used to encompass basically the whole world in those days, and they want to regain their empire. But I mean, why now? And what is their purpose?
First of all, the question "why now" is an extremely important question. The simple answer to that is, as you inferred, empire. They want their empire. Why now? For a very simple reason. During the time of the Shah, 30 plus years ago, the average fertility of women in Iran was 6 live births per woman. The average fertility today is 1.5. In other words, their society is not sustainable. If they go to war, they go to war now, because in 10 years they will not have the capability. They will not have the pardon the expression, the warm bodies in order to do it.
Let me interrupt you and ask you, what has caused the decline in birth rates? Because you would see that usually in a more modernized country where Iran has gone backwards since the 1970s.
Well, the only thing I can do to really answer that is to quote David Goldman, essentially, who I consider to be one of the finest journalists in the world today. And he says it's a question of optimism. If you're optimistic about your future, you have babies. If you're pessimistic, you do not.
Interesting.
The Iranian population today, particularly the Persians, but not only the Persians. Remember, Persians are only 50% of the Iranian population. They control everything. They control everything with a very, very harsh hand, but they're only 50%. The Iranian population today, 10% of the population is under the horror of the opium epidemic. Remember, Iran is the world's largest purveyor of opium to the Western world, just as Hezbollah is the world's largest purveyor of cocaine and amphetamines to the rest of the world. So Iran needs a war very quickly. Very quickly means within, I would say, 5 to 8 years at the most. Otherwise, they will simply implode.
Interesting. And Saudi Arabia, as you had said yesterday when I had you on the show, is basically on its own. That Egypt, which is also a Sunni state, is trying just to hold things together on their own. They've got the threat of ISIS, and their economy is very, very weak. And so now this is why Saudi Arabia is turning to the United States for help, and secretly, we understand, to Israel as well, to make some type of axis against Iran. So what do you see happening? We have a few minutes left. Maybe just give us an idea of what we might see, what's happening now, and what we might see happening.
Oh, it's very, very difficult to construct any coherent projection at this point. There are so many influences. Everything today is connected, as it never has been in the past. The American scandal called Uranium One is extremely important. Is a part of the answer to your question. We know that some of that uranium arrived in Asia. There are only 2 countries in Asia that could possibly be interested in getting that uranium: North Korea and Iran. If that uranium did in fact arrive in Iran, we don't know. I'm just saying if it did, then that clearly enhances their nuclear program, and they are very, very interested in creating a nuclear umbrella as soon as possible. Anyone who really thinks that they are working according to that ridiculous Obama so-called agreement is a fool. They are working very hard on creating a nuclear umbrella. It is critical to their plans. If they create that nuclear umbrella, and that's a big, big if they create the nuclear umbrella, clearly Hezbollah will immediately go to war with Israel. And they will go to war with a salvo of as many rockets at one time as possible in an attempt to overwhelm our defenses. And of course, our defenses are the highest quality defenses that exist anywhere in the world today.
Thank God.
Yes.
Okay. But still, I mean, if they're firing thousands of...
And if they don't make that nuclear umbrella, then what happens? Nothing is clear. Mm-hmm. Everything is connected. Everything is very, very complex.
All right. So basically, you're saying that if there is going to be a war with here, that Israel is going to be pushed into it because we're being attacked, that we've got to not only defend ourselves against the Hezbollah, but probably the Hamas in the south will join in, and as well probably Iran being the the top of the mountain, right? The buck stops there for Hezbollah. We've got to fight them as well. We're going to have a lot of fronts we have to fight at the same time in order to survive.
Yes, of course. We've done it before. We can do it again. I have absolutely no
worries,
reason to expect that we will have difficulties in that. Hamas is a joke. There's nothing there. If we decide to swat that mosquito, it simply disappears. The real threat is Hezbollah, not Hamas.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, but, if Israel were to fight the war seriously, in other words, all the times we've been finding we've had our hands tied behind our back, we want to do as little damage as possible, we want to de-escalate. I think that's what was our goal, not to win and destroy this threat completely so we wouldn't have to face off with it again in another few years, but it was just to de-escalate the situation because we didn't want to have to do that. But if we went in and fought like it should be, in other words, we take out their tashtit, in Hebrew, their infrastructure, you take out their television, their radio, their electricity, their water, everything to really bring them to their knees so they have to surrender. We've never done that. So you're saying that in any future war, we would really fight seriously this time?
I would expect, from everything that I've heard from the chief of staff and from the prime minister, I would expect that if a war occurs today, it will be absolute war. We will not only decimate their infrastructure, we will decimate their population.
Wow. Well, we hope it doesn't come to that. We value life, and we always extend our hand for peace. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, Dr. Mordechai Ben Menachem. Every time you're on, it's always enlightening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. Please share it with your friends on the social network. Let people hear about Israel News Talk Radio. We're a news station, and we want to reach everybody. So thanks for being with us. Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.